I guess September 25th airport committee meeting. It's 4:39. Let's call it to order. I take a roster of who's present. We're gonna go the other way this time. Joe Roach. Donnie Nuttall, Larry Coop, Chairman, Jim Ferreira, John, I can't remember. Yeah, that's why I couldn't remember. We have a quorum. Dave D'Amico, pilot from Eastern Air, is here for the second time in a row. Thank you all for coming. We do have a quorum. Before we get started, any adjustments to the agenda? Review the minutes from the last meeting. I would take a motion if anybody's got a chance to read them. If not, I'll give you a few. As read, you done? Motion to accept the minutes as read from the last meeting. Do we have anybody opposed? Everybody's in favor. It's a vote. Accept the minutes. If I'm ever going too fast, you guys please stop. I got shit to do. You got shit to do. We get to do more.
Chairman, who was the second on that?
I don't know if we had one, but I'm happy to do it. Public to speak. The non-agenda item. Anything you want to add on a non-agenda item? Good. Correspondence to be read into the record if you have any, Joe.
No, nothing other than what's provided in the packet. That doesn't necessarily need to be read into the record. It's just for conversation.
Reports of or to the commission. Kind of the same as number 6. If none, I'll assume there is none. Any reports of the airport manager?
One thing that's not on the agenda is Lifelight has placed one of their cameras
I do that, yeah.
through a grant program. So the grant paid
For
them
weather,
to put
for
the-
weather, correct?
For weather purposes, it's on our tower. It's at the top.
Is it available to others or just them?
No, it's available publicly.
So how would one get that information?
There's a link. I'll send it to the commission
Okay.
after the
There you
meeting.
What's that, Doug? What was that, Doug?
When is it? Oh, no, I said, that's good. I said, when are they gonna, is it?
It's live.
It's live now.
There's a little more information to that. They, with permission of the Pilots Association, took the pilot's camera down. It's still in the lounge. You may have seen it there. I've got permission to dispose of that when I get up there. That's one thing you should know. So it's taken the place of the pilot's camera. And number 2, it is currently out of commission. Something happened with whether it's a electronic command that's making a point now, or the weather. Atlas is not sure if it was the weather. He's the one that brought it to our attention. So Lifelight's coming. He gave me a date. It's I think it's Wednesday this week. He's coming
Work on it.
to fix it. He'll go up and fix it. There is a link. It's public and it's tied into all of the.
They put it in the same place?
Yeah, it's on the beacon. Yeah,
Could the Pilots Association put it back on their
It
website
is on
as
the
their
website.
camera?
I'm pretty sure they've done that.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Pretty sure
I
they
haven't
linked
looked at
it.
that before. The Pilots
I had to
Association.
look at it for a while.
But there was something I actually saw some ice and snow and freezing rain one time, a winter or 2 ago, like the airport didn't look very friendly on that camera. When I was coming from the south. You know, to be able to look at your remote.
We've had some, and we do this happens periodically. We have intermittent issues with reporting weather out to National Weather Service. So how that works is we have the AWAS, gear on the field, and then there's the back, in the back room, there's a server rack. It doesn't go directly to National Weather Service. There's a jump in the middle, so it goes to a place called RSI in Tennessee. And if they get it, then they give it to the weather service. Sometimes it just needs to be reset. Sometimes the tech needs to get in there.
It's not to interrupt you, but due to my health issues, I've not been flying the last year or 2. But John, when you were shooting the approach,
I haven't shot an approach here in a year.
okay, so
I've
you
done
know,
no
because
action.
in the past, if I was communicating with Jim in Portland or Boston, they could not tell me, they could clear me from the approach, but had no idea what the weather was.
Right.
So I assume that that's gotten better with this new link.
As long as the link is transmitting, because from time to time, do you ever see when you're watching the news at night on TV?
Range is on, range is off.
There's no weather,
Yes.
temperature there?
Yes.
That's because it's offline for some reason.
So in the past, when you were clearing me for this approach, or you were passing me off to Boston, then they were clearing me for this approach. There was no way they could, I had to listen to the AWAS myself. Was somebody on the ground with the current weather
Yeah.
before shooting the approach. If I elected. So that would be great if there was such a link that the Senate could say, and the weather is 600 over.
Mhm.
The wind is, instead of AWAS is very unreliable for the wind up there. I guess where it's positioned and where the wind is, it's never very accurate. The wind, weather is, but the wind is very, like, if it's blowing south 30 knots at my marina, I'll often call the airport to see what it's doing. It's just 6 gusting to 7. With certain directions, it doesn't do well with the wind up there.
One of the components of the AWAS system that most frequently comes out of whack is the weather the wind sensor.
Okay.
In fact, when Stan was here a week or 2 ago, he requested a lift up, we sent the fire truck up to.
Okay, because I'm telling you that I have sensed years past that the wind was not what I knew it was. You know what I mean, wind? Your weather station is more accurate on the wind than south,
Oh, out of the ambient weather.
right?
Yeah, it's got, that sensor is on a swivel,
Welcome, young lady.
it's on a swivel, and it's got some thumb screws and then weights and so forth, so it's calibrated. And sometimes when the wind blows really hard, it comes loose, so to speak, it moves. Which
Sorry, we're halfway into the meeting. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you
That's
may.
okay. My name's Amanda Christian. I'm here on behalf of the chamber to talk about 2 different topics. One is, should I let you know what they are?
Well, let me ask, we've gone by the public to speak version, but let me ask for permission to let you speak, and I'd be happy to do it on my record. So on behalf of the lady that's just been somewhat late for the meeting, could I have a motion? I would make a motion on the floor to allow her to speak even though slightly out of order.
Second.
Third, I'm in favor, all in favor? You're up, ma'am.
Okay. Alrighty, so first up is the Chamber of Commerce is redoing our website. And we want to include more information about the airport for the request of Joe. Way back then, it was a while ago, but we're finally there at that point. But I need information.
What type of information?
What would interest a pilot? Information for a pilot flying in that might want to fly into Rangeley Airport.
Well,
And I don't, I know we don't have public hangars.
no.
Stuff, so I'm not a pilot, so I don't know what a pilot might need outside
As
of
the
knowing.
airport committee, or whatever I am head of,
Mhm.
I would be happy to have, or Jim and I would be happy to have lunch with you guys at the chamber and get us somewhat, a local pilot to have lunch with us sometime this fall. And
Okay.
fill you in on what the airport benefits the town and how you can benefit the airport.
Okay,
I
that sounds
think,
great.
Joe, if that would be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Mhm.
Jim, I mean, it's just simple. Lunch at Parkside Sunday and talk about the usefulness of the airport and what the chamber can do for it and it can do for you.
Yes.
What else?
The other thing is, if you haven't heard, April 8th of 2024, we're having a little solar eclipse.
Yep.
Which it'll be fully eclipsed here in Rangeley.
If the weather is good,
If the weather is good, we will be able to see it. We're having a Shadow of the Sun festival. Basically, it's, the mountain starts on Saturday with the mountain. With their spring bash, it's gonna have a planetary eclipse type theme to it. They haven't told me exactly what the theme is. And then other different events leading up until the big event on Monday. When the eclipse comes. I've been going around looking at spots that people can view the event if it is visible, if we aren't cloudy. And also alternative locations because whether we realize it or not, people will come. Even though April is normally like kind of a slower month for Rangeley, we're gonna get hit with people. So the goal of this is one, to have them come longer than just the day for the event. And the other thing is have designated spots for them to view, so that they're not pulling off on the side of the road. A place like the airport, you could have people, if we haven't designated a spot for them to view, and been prepared, you could have people on the runway, and I don't think we want people on the
Not on the
runway.
runway, we could take that to a vote as early as tonight, but the runway will be off limits.
Right, the runway
The
should
rear
be off
taxiway in front of
limits,
the hangars could possibly work.
that's what I
Really
was
simple,
thinking.
restrict something like that off, but I have to have a vote of the board, but okay, keep going.
But I was thinking, one in the parking lot, not on the runway,
We have setbacks that we have to abide by.
yes. Cause Border Patrol contacted me about that a couple months ago, about what Rangeley was doing. So there's that, and then also, I didn't know if someone would be willing to give up their personal hangar for the day, one, to act as like a warming hut, and two, also as a, if it's a cloudy day, where people could go inside and view the eclipse. 'Cause
Oh,
you-
on the TV,
on the TV, yep.
I don't know that we have any TV service up there unless someone can do it through the World Wide Web, but
Yeah, you can do it through the web. You just stream NASA.
that's a question we'd have to ask the town selectmen about, if we could use a hangar for an open event, I'd like that,
Mhm.
I believe, right, Joe?
Yeah, there would have to be an event permit filed.
Correct.
We have filed one, I think, no, not.
Not for the airport, cause I didn't,
What other sites have you chosen for viewing?
where I'm working with Rangeley Health and Wellness, we have the town
Beautiful
park,
spot,
we have the town park.
is it in the right
Mango
direction? Is the
Springs.
health center in the right direction, looking due south?
It's looking more west, but if you
Yeah, so-
turn, there's enough view.
The health center is looking more east, southeast.
If you're looking at the lake, that's more westerly.
Jim,
Yes, it is.
is it?
The sun sets that way, that's all I know.
Okay, all right, I would, if I'm looking at the health center.
So, Saddleback's gonna have viewing spots. Mingo Springs,
Golf course,
the golf course,
maybe snow on the ground though,
everywhere will probably have snow on the ground.
one at the airport,
No, pardon?
you one at the airport,
Well, that's a good thing.
good point.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. But, you know, it's not from my perspective, it's not the chamber, we're just trying to coordinate everything, you know. Here are the viewing sites, please go here, don't pull over on the side of the road, type deal. So here, you know, here are the designated sites, and those, like for the airport, it would, I don't know if it's the town or whoever, make sure you have porta potties there, you know, that,
Well, the airport has its own public facility, so that's a plus.
okay, that's a good plus for you guys. So, if that's not, you know, it's just, and if you need to rope off area or have someone man so they don't go on the field,
Cones and ropes is quick.
Yeah.
To answer to that question, I guess go to the selectmen,
Okay.
get an events permit,
okay,
suggesting the airport as one of your sites.
I can do that,
As soon as they approve it, give you a nod of a yes, then come back to me personally, you know me, I'm at the marina.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the hangar owners, I'm sure we can get you a warm place to have coffee,
okay,
but first we have to have the blessing from the select.
oh, I can do that.
Do you know, is it west, is it the westerly, was that where the moon is at that time? Do you have any idea?
It is, well, it's more where the sun is,
What
and
time of day is
it's
it?
kind of right
Oh,
about
okay.
there.
Yeah. So what time does it happen?
It's between, I wanna say, I should know this by heart. Like, I wanna say between 2 and 4.
Okay,
Is it chick hill away of that viewing?
what's that?
Is chick hill away of that viewing in the evening?
No, the 2 and 4, April 8th, I don't know.
I don't know.
I do
If you don't figure it out, the board is certainly happy to cooperate.
Thank you,
If the selectmen cooperate, we will cooperate.
all right.
It seems that it would be a beautiful spot for it if the setting is right,
Mhm.
because you can have a warm building, you can have coffee.
Yeah.
It could be 20, it could be 50,
Correct.
it could be cloudy, it could be clear.
Mhm.
An April day, maybe it's a little bit ice with moments.
Yes, yes,
Is it snowing or is it raining or is it perfectly clear in July?
Yeah.
Good luck with it.
so thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Well,
Well, thank you for bringing this to us, and I certainly would hope that we can help you get it done.
Okay. And I'll reach out to you,
Selectmen first.
no, about the website and the information on the airport?
Yes, anytime you'd like, we can have lunch with you in October, when things are quieted down, talk to you about the airport in general,
Okay.
then you can follow up with Joe, he's the airport manager. That
I
part,
have that hat too.
Yes.
Okay.
that part we can help you with as far as what the airport can do for you and what you can do for the airport.
Okay,
You can look at the town's website and look at what they have, it's pretty vague what they have.
yeah,
The airport has been improved significantly since that information has been put out there.
mhm,
It's almost finally being found after 3 years of expensive renovation.
mhm,
It's finally being found by a few airplanes. Would you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's being found because it takes 2 years for the charting to get correct. And then a lot of guys have obsolete charts, so it's still 3,200 feet long in their airplane unless they go to look it up. Right, Joe?
mhm.
Which is-
I mean, well, I'd say it's the nicest rural airport in the state of Maine.
So happy to help you both situations, and we'd appreciate the boost in your website followers to use and utilize the facility for as good as it is,
Yes,
for what it's for.
Very, just wanna recommend it, maybe if you have time, you can hang around until the 10, because airport promotion and marketing will be on the agenda.
okay.
It's not specific to what,
Mhm.
things you're talking about the website, but there may be some things that
That we can help with.
interest you, under that item.
If we can make an arrangement, we'd have happy to have lunch with you and put you into touch with hopefully an active pilot here. I'm inactive at this point. When you're inactive, but somebody around here could be active enough to bring you up to date
Mhm.
as to what's going on today. I haven't been to the airport other than the meetings in 2 years, but hope to go back again as soon as my health gets better. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Back in order. Reports from the airport manager, to or from the airport manager.
I've given you a couple already, about the link to, the National Weather Service. Sometimes that's intermittent. We've got corrected this week. Sometimes power will blink in a storm, and that's all it takes to set the thing off.
Yep.
And you physically have to go, somebody has to go there
Reset it.
and reset it. There's no remote reset for that. That's typically what the problem is. Those two things. That's really what I have to report at this point.
So Jim, if I could ask you, I spoke to Joe earlier tonight before we get on to number 9. He said you did a review of what facilities in the state of Maine do have a fuel flow tax.
I called around, it's been a while now, but I called around when we were talking about the fuel flow tax. And just to get a sense for what the other airports around do, and they do not, so we're unique that we own fuel, we don't own fuel farm, that Keith owns the fuel farm. So in the other facilities,
Towers.
the other towns, I mean, they charge because they own it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me.
Because they have somebody go out there and do it unless they have a self-serve,
Right. So,
or they maintain the cost themselves, so it's still a cost.
right, so they're getting some money for it. To me, it still doesn't make sense to charge when we don't own that equipment. It's like,
So I have a question on that myself. Now, would you able to charge the owner of the facility a fuel flow charge? With just the fuel that he retails?
I think in this case, if it were written into the lease, you could charge the owner for the number of gallons. There'd have to be some mechanism to know, the number of gallons that are sold. There'd have to be some disclosure agreement.
And who's gonna monitor the books of the operator?
Know if it's, I understand the question, but I don't think we'd have to go so far as monitoring the books. It could just be a report, monthly or annually.
Someone's still gotta do the review, say there was 21 gallons sold this month.
Right.
Then do up the paperwork and bill the operator for 21 gallons.
Correct.
What?
I'm sorry, someone would have to do the review.
No. I'm just, back when they did the first extension, they were adamant about us making, and
Understood, doing the best we could.
that was, I questioned them a lot out
We do pretty good job with our hangar rent and our tax
Absolutely.
lease. We do, we're within $10,000 of washing the airport.
I know. But they were like, okay, you guys need to start getting some revenue
Understood,
to
understood,
take it off the taxpayers for this stuff.
understood.
And the fuel was one of the things they
It is,
mentioned.
but if the volume is so low
Understand?
and your cost of it costs more than the cost of monitoring it, sometimes you're better off to throw away $1 and save a dime.
No question.
So, back to that. Would you be charging the owner of the facility? That could jeopardize your facility in its entirety.
Why?
Well, because if you're gonna put 30 cents a gallon fuel tax on the operator, let's say, I'm just picking a number,
Well, that's not gonna be a number, but yeah,
it's less than that.
30 cents a gallon.
What do you think?
Tax?
What do you think?
I don't know, but,
You're thinking a dime,
well, I mean, you can't do it directly because we don't own it, so
correct?
we gotta get something.
Okay, so what are you thinking for a number? 5 cents?
5, 10, somewhere in there.
Okay, 5 cents.
I don't know.
So just, I'm gonna give you gas, 216 gallons a month to others. So your cost of monitoring this is gonna cost you 20 times more than the 74 cents you're gonna receive.
Okay. Okay.
So your cost, I'm fine if you're gonna raise 3,000, but you're gonna raise 300. At my number, at 25 cents, he says he wants to charge 5, what were you thinking?
I don't have any input on this really.
Jim, when you did your review, if the town did it, what would they charge?
You know, I forget, I
The
did,
guy that held the nozzle, because you're not over the nozzle. No town employee is over the nozzle,
Correct.
that's a fee.
No, I don't have any input as the airport manager.
No, I understand, I just don't want to
When
create,
Mark called earlier, I'm remembering that he brought this up and said.
right, but I
he
don't
would
want to
say
create
10 cents.
a negative for the airport county.
No, God, no.
That we spend more money in office work than we're creating in revenue.
So,
It seems like an awful lot of work to raise $300 a year if you're not gonna charge the owner of the tanks. I suspect if you're gonna charge the owner of the tanks, a year or two from now, I haven't spoken with him. I tried to talk to him on the phone tonight about it. He said, as long as they just charge a full flat tax for what I retail, I'll just add it on the price, I don't care. But if you're gonna start charging me, I gotta reevaluate my fuel position in rate, because I own the tanks. Not me, I mean, the owner. Good point, if you own the tanks, put yourself in those shoes. He's got $100,000 worth of tanks, he just put $30,000 worth of credit card receivers on. He's got $130,000 worth of fuel in rate, he's got all the liability of water, contamination, fuel caps off, fuel caps on, who got good fuel, who got bad fuel, who put diesel in gas, who put gas in diesel. Do you want that liability, Joe? Because one nozzle had a red plastic liner on it instead of a green one. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the green one is,
well,
yeah.
this is something we could look into if the airport ever picked up. a
Yes,
bunch.
I understand, but
You
the
know,
volume we're doing now, I think we're barking up the wrong tree, I think we're gonna lose our fuel before we gain anything.
And then
My
we-
personal opinion, I'd be willing to open this up for discussion, and I think we should take it on, good idea, that idea.
If it's feasible, well, apparently it's, we don't sell that much.
Remember, it's because everybody goes out of Rangeley light.
Right.
They come in heavy.
Right.
They're full.
Right.
Myself included. I go out of Rangeley heavy, I have to go to Portland and get fuel. Because I don't want full tanks leaving Rangeley, I'm over gross.
Yeah.
I put 6 people in a 6-place airplane, I can only have 50 gallons of fuel. Cost 20 gallons to get to Portland, I got legal fuel when I get to Portland. Now I get 8,000 feet, I can go anywhere I want with full fuel. Off 4,000 feet, I cannot do it. No, am I correct when I say weight versus fuel?
yeah, I don't know, I'm not a pilot. I just got
John
caught.
explained.
At the other end.
The balance feel like was too short for a full load of fuel.
Typically, no one's gonna tanker out of here,
It's
because
gonna-
no one's gonna tanker out of here
That's
for a few
correct.
reasons.
Right.
One of the things that I think hasn't even been mentioned, but is a concern, is the fact that Keith's gonna pass this on to the consumer.
Correct.
And basically, all this is gonna be is a tax on pilots.
Right.
And he's gonna actually sell less fuel as the price goes higher. So even if he did sell a couple hundred gallons a month, it's gonna go down from there. So I don't see it as being good because it's gonna be a tax on the pilots, and I don't see it being good because we're not gonna make as much money off of it as if we did it administrative costs.
Right.
And I think it's more detrimental because it just adds another layer of things that Keith has to do.
Correct. And also Joe's people have to.
Yes.
Monitor the fuel flow.
Absolutely. So.
Can I interject something? Can I interject?
Yes.
If your tax raises, hypothetically, let's say it raises it 15 cents above someone that's 12 miles down the road, pilot's gonna go 12 miles down, because you're not talking about 6 gallons of the thing.
Correct, you're talking about 100 gallons.
80 gallons,
Yeah.
100 gallons. If they're gonna take on some serious fuel, so
Right.
that could affect your point. It's
And
negligible.
I love Keith, but I never could leave here with my 210 with 6 people full fuel, so I had to buy fuel elsewhere. I came in with the load that I needed to go out with,
Well, my dad, I'm full. and it's-
or I would put 20 gallons in just to get me out of here because of the balanced fuel rate. I'm sorry that you're not pilots, but a full load of people, you have to take away fuel.
Right.
Now you take away time in the air. So you balance your load for the amount of distance you need to travel, for the amount of runway you have underneath you. What you can operate off, in the old days, off 2,700 feet, we were limited to sometimes a half an hour flight. We go to Berlin, tag when we were in Grocery. Right, just because the airplane is only good to haul 1,000 pounds, I don't care if it's people, lead or fuel. You follow me?
Yeah,
So
sure.
you put 1,000 pounds of lead in it, you have no room for fuel. But you can take off, you just can't go anywhere. So, okay, if everybody is willing to, until we see the Rangeley Airport being, I know we wanna work on it being self-sufficient, I'm fine with that. I think we need to work on some additional hangar leases. We need to work on fine tuning our outdoor parking cost. That's a reasonable fee to raise an extra $1,000 a year, I'm good with that. Our cars that are parked up there, they should be paying, they pay in Portland, they should be paying here. If you wanna leave a car there year round, it's $500 a year, if you wanna leave it there monthly, it's $100 a month. I mean, I just picked those numbers out of the sky, Joe, a fair number. To not, and skip this fuel surcharge before we lose our fuel altogether and we alienate our inbound pilots. I'd be more than happy to take a vote on that we scrap this for 2 years before we table it, before we look at it again.
Second.
I would take a motion.
Second.
So the motion on the floor is that we scrap this for 2 years until we have some more activity. Take some load off Joe, he doesn't have to mess with it. I have a motion on the floor, I take a second.
Second.
Have a second, scrap this idea of fuel flow, thank you very much, to vote, all those in favor?
I have a question, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
sir.
before you vote. So are you motioning now to recommend no flowage fee?
Fee for 2 years till we find some more additional volume, and we'll find out where we can find a simpler revenue.
How does the commission feel about the remainder of the lease? The lease was agreeable last time I spoke with the owner. The lease terms other than the,
You mean the airport tenants lease?
well, no, the lease for the,
I don't even know what that is, I read it, but whatever it is, if you're happy, if Keith's happy with it, I'm happy.
Yeah, I
You
read
should, you should negotiate that with Keith and do it between yourselves. If he wants to pay $500 a year or nothing, you do it.
okay.
I don't wanna discourage fuel there.
Because as I recall, the only hang up in this was the flowage fee that the commission
Right,
wanted to
but I think
discuss
the
that.
more you charge flow, the more you're getting into liability issues. The more you worry about who put the wrong fuel in the wrong plane, the more you worry about who's buying water. This is Keith's problem, he's willing to accept that responsibility, leave it with him. You pump 5 gallons, you got a town employee or a volunteer, go up there, pump 4 gallons of water into somebody's twin engine airplane some night. When Keith didn't know that they got water in it last night, and that guy is, they're gonna point their finger at him. You put that fuel in there, and God forbid it was a town employee. That you help them run the fuel system.
I just wanted to clarify that you were okay with
I am,
lease,
I'm fine with
Lease
it.
itself.
Scrap the fuel, and let Keith worry about the fuel.
omit the flowage fees.
Yeah.
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay with the lease.
Would you want that liability, John?
I haven't seen the lease, so I don't.
Would you want the fuel liability up there?
Absolutely not.
Great.
It's a liability you don't wanna have.
I had it when I had KDA or whatever it was, when I had Lake Region Air. I didn't like it, I was happy to sell those things to Keith.
There's a lot
We
of
sold a lot
liability.
more fuel because we were running the Cape Air and Navajo, so we were eating some fuel.
So just to be clear, what Joe said, we're approving the lease as written, we're just scrapping the fuel fee.
And you negotiate with Keith whatever he thinks is fair on the fuel tank lease, if any. Because I think he's permitted there by the FAA, they built the fuel farm for it. The station. The FAA built the vaults, I'm sorry, the cement pads and did all the electrical work for Keith to put his tanks there. Under one of the last AIP grants. Because they moved them, remember they set them back and they did the rising concrete. And they moved the little shed and put new power bases in. Remember the little white shed that used to house everything? The FAA paid for all that, so they were open to the fact that those tanks were owned by someone else. And I'm sure they were pretty happy about it. Because they don't want the liability either. We'd be happy to participate in making this operation safer, is what their opinion was. Because it's kind of too plugged into the circuit breaker before. So they approved that. I think we made the right decision tonight, and thank you very much.
So we have a vote.
We had a vote.
I interrupted you before you
We
finished.
have a unanimous vote that it's not wise at this time. We're gonna table it for 2 years and visit it again. Instrument approach alternatives.
Just an update there that based on the conversation you had at your last meeting, I did talk with Irv Jack, who's our consultant planner. He's sent a couple of emails out to the FAA trying to find out if there is an approach other than the one that was discussed previously.
That approach is already, contrary to what Mark thinks, that approach is in black and white. The FAA has approved it, test flown it, and set it on a chart. If Mark would like to proceed with a different approach, not an additional approach, that's his prerogative.
Well, I think that's what the commission has put out there for directions for me to do, is see if there's another approach that could be.
I don't think we need to get in the middle of it. If we have a landowner that doesn't like the traffic, let him do it. We're happy with it. In other words, the alignment of that approach, the FAA has chosen the safest path. And I believe that. If for some reason we have a resident that thinks it's not the safest path, they should take it up to the FAA, not the committee.
Were you here for that when we discussed
Yes.
that?
Yes, remember you have
Yeah,
the gazelle out?
yeah, and we just, he asked if did he ask you, Joe, if you could go and look to see if there are any options, any alternatives to this other approach? This would stay in place, but just to ask.
Yes.
Yes, but what we didn't know that day was that those approaches were active. Those were already, they're printed, they're in the approach place. Jepson has them.
Right, and I think we knew that, and.
Well, we didn't know, half know that. Wayne Group pulled them all up the next day. And it's pulled all the geographical topo side views, off views. They've done their homework on that.
Right. It was, but then he was like, Mark said, I'm just
They like to bring
paraphrasing.
people north of Saddleback and turn them left.
Yeah, but he wanted to just reach out to the FAA to see if there would be some sort of an alternative, even though this is already a published approach and everything, right?
Right, and that's, the update is that inquiry is in motion. Our consultant has asked.
Fine, as long as the town's not spending any money on it.
We haven't spent a dime.
Okay,
If they want to pursue it, let them pursue it. That, the 1-4 approach goes over my house too. Once a month I hear a plane go over. But I can't see them, I mean, in the clouds.
So they've already stated that's the best flight path.
They did, and you know, they did their work, and they're much smarter than us. As to the
Yeah,
safety,
Yeah,
and if you did a count, and I'm sure they've done it, from what direction do most traffic come from?
Yeah.
If you had a lot of people coming from Greenville, maybe you would need an approach over South Bay. But 90% of your traffic is coming from Burlington, Portland, Augusta. Not from Greenville. Great,
I would assume.
I'm just saying,
What's in Greenville, they come
and if
here.
you are going to Greenville, you're going all the way to Shiny, skip Sugarloaf altogether and come to the upland.
yeah, when they make approaches, when they write approaches, it's very thorough
Correct,
process.
they weighed every option.
Yeah, and whether I like it or you like it or you like it.
It's the
It has
safest
like this
option.
much, has like this much effect on, yeah, it's the safest option,
Correct.
safety,
Wow,
you know,
it's a
so.
no-brainer.
Right.
All right, so, Joe, I think as long as we're not spending any money on it, let any resident do whatever they wanna do. They can oppose anything they want, but there's so little IFR traffic up here, so little IFR traffic.
Well, let Mark go to them and say, hey. they're a better spot.
This is not an airport for laymen in the mountains anywhere. I don't care if it's here or the Adirondacks or in Sandpoint, Idaho. You wanna live in Idaho, you better be familiar with the terrain. You can't even shoot an approach into Telluride unless you had prior approval. Because it's dangerous. You follow me? You just cannot land in Telluride on your own unless you go there a day before and take a lesson. Just an example of the safety of some of these approaches. But Jim,
Mhm.
please. I know that because I got reprimanded for it one morning. How's that playing in here?
What?
What are you talking about? Anyway, but I'm saying, but there's other airports like ours that are equally as hazardous to enter. And it requires lots of due diligence on the pilot.
Absolutely.
And if they don't feel comfortable with that approach, don't come here.
Any approach that came in north of Saddleback would be non-coincident with the alignment of the runway.
Correct, correct.
And being non-coincident with the alignment of the runway would make it a very high minimum, and it would also be a circling approach. So that means that there's no need for it.
And irregardless, I don't think it's, if the board is not opposed to the approaches that we have, and some resident is, it's up to the resident to defend himself. No, I don't think we should support it as a board.
True.
I mean, just what he did, he's looking, you know,
That's
just ask the question, basically, right, Joe? Just ask the question.
Yeah,
Mark can write a letter to the FAA and explain his deal, and they'll write him a letter back saying they've done all their stuff, and
And I want you to
it's
remember
the way it is.
And I'd like to have all of you remember what we're here for, to invite aviation, support the airport in its best interest of the town.
I don't wanna go anywhere near settlement.
No, what is our job is to support the airport in the best interest of the town.
Yeah.
It's safety, operations, and helping
I'm not
Joe,
crashing airplanes.
make Joe's life easier, that's why we're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Our job is to not make Joe's life harder.
Yeah, okay.
All right, if that's over with, let's talk about airport promotions and marketing. We're talking to them now a little bit about that.
well, we can, let me give you a little bit of background, and this kind of goes in a lot of different directions, it's not, you know, a pinpoint discussion with you. Over the last year and a half that I've been doing this, one of the calls I get most frequently is there a taxi service? Or is there a courtesy car? Recently heard about courtesy bicycles, and we don't have any of those things, so
We don't.
when we start thinking about next year's budget, I think those are things we should start thinking
And
about.
I'll tell you
Bicycles are
something else, if you ever
affordable.
want to get into some revenue, build a big box hangar and rent some space. But
Well, that's another thing that I've heard
because
calls
I
on.
am pestered
Yeah.
with people that want to put their plane away in my hangar. And I've started to say, no, 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 because my insurance company doesn't like it.
Right.
Because they don't know the condition of the plane that's going in there. If it has a fuel leak, we have an environmental issue. If it burns the hangar to the ground, was it our problem, or was it the owner that I let go in there for free?
And that's another one of the calls I get, Mr. Chairman, is when folks will call and
Especially in
say,
Saddleback, hangar spaces at a premium,
right, do you have a heated hangar?
and the planes
Do
get
you have a
delivered.
public hangar? Do you have, we don't,
I have the only heated hangar, and I don't heat it every day, I heat it when we need to heat it. I shouldn't say that, some of the box hangars now are heated, but they're just barely heated, right?
Yeah.
Just enough to take the chill off.
Chill. I mean, it's not
I think,
you're not in there in a t-shirt.
but again, now you're getting into having a tug, you're getting into an operations manager up there. Somebody's gonna rip the nose gear off somebody's Navajo by turning it too hard, and you're gonna have insurance for that, I don't know where you stop.
I don't know where to start.
Correct,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'd love to have raised more revenue, but. You know, a box hanger up there is probably $600,000 today. Then you gotta manage it, then you gotta buy a tug, you gotta fix the door every couple of years.
somebody has to do that, doesn't necessarily have to be the town, right, I mean.
Yeah, there isn't enough space now for the airplanes in town.
Somebody, yeah.
We have people, two people that I know that own 3 airplanes and they don't have room for them all, they beg me every day for space. I can't put your airplane in front of mine. I wanna go, you wanna put it in the back? Yeah, but we don't wanna move your airplane. Go away. Right, I mean,
Can't do that.
no, but what I'm saying is, unfortunately, I built a hangar 30 years ago, right? Steve Beam was alive.
Yeah.
Ed Simmons was alive, that was.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost $500,000.
That's crazy. Yeah, no,
I don't know if you could build one for $500,000 today, could you, Wayne? brand new building like mine. With all the prep, it's concrete,
Up here for the
Huh?
frost and everything?
That's correct.
It's not like-
the hot top out front, all that stuff. I don't know if you could you?
$250 square foot of it.
So I'm 60 by 65, that's, what is that, 65 by 60 by 70? 350 a foot,
I'll go 250.
okay, so
I
it's
built one in 2018 in Plymouth, Mass for about
65 by 70 is what?
65 by 70. Is 4,550,
Times 250.
1.137.
Hello, hello,
No.
but no wonder nobody wants to build a new hangar, right?
Right, so this kind of plays into my question about, promoting, which is, as the chair mentioned in the bylaws, it's the intent of this committee is to help promote, among other things, the airport. How, I'm looking for your vision of where do we start?
I'll tell you what you do, you have to find, you have to promote outside the outside the state of Rangeley for a operator that wants to open a paint shop, an engine shop, or some type of a shop. You subsidize his presence and he provides the services. You build him a hangar and then you rent it for him, you rent it. You spend $2 million for a hangar, which the AIP would do it. You get revenue from that, that's free to you. You get the $3,000, $5,000 a month, which is a token fee to rent it. You're solving Donnie's problem and you invited traffic and he has a hangar that he can charge to subsidize his costs of providing a service to your transients. That's exactly what we do in Portland, what we do in Groton, Connecticut, is what we do everywhere we go. We throw ourselves down at the front counter and say, do you have a hangar for the plane? I'll try to find one, it's $100 a day, okay, fine, put it inside. I'll be back tomorrow at 3, okay? Thank you, Mr. Cooper. But before you have a facility and an operator that would do that, you understand what I'm saying? You're not gonna send a sewer guy up there to move the guy's plane. The operator has to know what he's doing, he's gotta have the equipment. And he pieces that airplane, he puts 10 airplanes away at night, he collects $1,000 and he's happy, and so should you be, that you provided a service for the community.
We have Kevin up there now.
I'm sorry?
Kevin's up there now.
Yeah, but I don't know if
He's capable of doing all of
again,
that.
you gotta talk to the operator and see what he wants to provide for a service. I mean, if he wants to do fabric work, he wants to do engine work, he wants to do float repair, he wants to do painting, he wants something, you give him a permit to do that, you subsidize his operation. In return for that, you get the services that you don't wanna provide.
True.
But if the
Is that
town,
right? Correct?
Yeah.
Because you don't wanna go up there and babysit those
No,
services.
no, we don't wanna make a big deal about
But
this.
you'd like to have a guy with a small citation come in and get put away and say, Rangeley was a great place to go. I went there with my family, I spent $12,000 in 13 days. The airplane was home and I went home, I can't wait to come back. That's the service we need to provide.
And then we need to connect them to
Correct.
the airport to downtown,
That's the service you need to
and then
provide.
once they get there.
Well, no, your operator would do that. Your operator would do that. He would have a couple of $3,000 vans out there and throw the keys at. There's no airport in the world that I go to that I don't normally keep them overnight. I go to the hotel, I ask the hotel to bring me back to the airport, pick me up, let's get this organized, but I bring them back to crew car. Every airport has a crew car. They throw the keys at you. If it's late at night, they say, keep it as long as you're back by 7 AM. If you're not back by 7 AM, if it's 4 in the afternoon, say, I'll bring the car right back. I just gotta grab something to eat and get a ride to the hotel. All right. 20 minutes later, you bring the car back after you've arranged a ride from either the hotel, the restaurant.
Montpelier, Vermont.
I'm sorry,
Montpelier, Vermont has an excellent crew car setup.
but did I just describe the problem?
Exactly. Look at Mac Aviation down in Portland.
But the operator would do that. You're
Yeah,
right.
the operator.
Let's call the guy an FBO. Whatever he wants, maybe he won't provide full service, but like I said, engine shop, float shop, rag shop, fabric, paint shop, structural repairs. There is so much of that in need. But find somebody that's got the energy that wants to do it originally. The need's there. Just finding somebody that wants to do it. And the key to that is providing them with a facility that is affordable for them to build this business for nothing.
Well, Kevin Dawson's doing that right now, doing all that.
Yes, but it's got a facility for the winter.
He needs a place,
I
so
know.
if we had a place, let's compare it to, say, what Plymouth has, Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm familiar with Plymouth because my other hangars are in Plymouth, Mass. At Plymouth, they have an admin building that is brand new, that was paid for out of state money, and Fed money. And, at that admin building, they dispense their own fuel, they take care of all ground handling of the aircraft. They charge for tie downs that are there overnight, and monthly, there's a place to thaw your airplane, so you can bring it indoors. All of the plow vehicles are there as well. They have arrangements with local Comfort Inn and all of that to get people back and forth to the hotels in the downtown areas. There's also a restaurant that rents space at the airport, and that's yet again another
Revenue source.
another revenue source, as well as another reason to fly there. So if we had an old police cruiser or something like that, that we could use, I've done that
To
to
do that, that's great, but you gotta have somebody on the field to size up the guy you throw the keys at.
Exactly. Yeah, they typically take your driver's license, photocopy that, and they give you the keys. So an old police cruiser or something like that. So if we had a facility up there that had basically three functions, if we had an admin building that maybe could house another component of our town government. I know we don't have a police station. We could put the police up there as well, so that way we have more people at the airport that could do these tasks. So if we had an admin building and then maintenance type facility that could be the FBO that you're talking about. So let's say that the mechanic could then rent that out. That's additional income.
Now, his income is based on what he produces, you don't get a piece of that.
What's that?
So let's say 10 planes come in the park tonight, $10 a night.
Yeah.
You don't get a piece of that, you're getting the rent for the facility.
Got it.
He's got to turn around and try to figure out how to get revenue enough to pay the rent. So he's aggressive,
They also have to have enough work for this guy, for the fixed-based operator
no
Keep him
different, no
busy.
different than fixing boats, Tony.
to, yeah.
I mean, I don't
People
know
will
another
fly
business,
in
I don't have
for
enough business.
He'll fly in for that. So he'll draw in maintenance work from other parts of the state or in New Hampshire, even over in Vermont.
Another business, crazy business,
Yeah. well,
very, very lucrative.
Yeah.
Tanking airplanes to go overseas. You buy a Navajo or Twin to Seneca, you wanna put 250 gallons of fuel in it, one time. $25,000 to build the tanks. They fly it overseas, they get the gander, they cross the pond, they rip the tanks out of it, the airplane's on the right shore. They spend 25,000 gallons for fuel tanks they don't need, just in case. Cause you gotta move the airplane. There's two ways to do it, add fuel or take it apart.
What's the possibility of making this an airport eventually? We've got border patrol here.
We tried. There was some functional problem with the border patrol and they went to home. 10 years ago, they went to home for some unknown reason. We would have loved that.
Oh, that, yeah.
Oh, I would have loved to have the border
If we had a
patrol.
facility
Main office
like,
here.
like what we're talking,
There was
with an
something,
airport
there was
eventually.
two problems.
They run at 16.
One of the problems, as I remember, was our road structure. There's not enough ways in and out for them during an emergency on wheels. There's only 3 ways out of town.
Yeah.
Route 4, to Route 16. If the airport road was flooded, windstorm or whatever, they would have lost their egress from the airport. And there wasn't enough services here to provide them guaranteed access to Main Street every second of the day. With 2 trees down, town's busy doing something else, that road would be closed for 3 hours.
it would be.
And that was one of their concerns, this was 10 years ago. Just a little bit off the beaten path for their emergency needs, when they need to get to the helicopters, their airplanes, their citation, their fuel.
I see.
It could be landlocked.
Yeah.
You know, crisis. Holton was not the case, because the airport's right on 95. That was their thought process. I'd love to think you could put a satellite station here, but I don't know. The feds have got them out here. You see, we're spending it in Ukraine.
Okay. Yeah, right.
What else?
Yeah.
If that informs you, did you know that about the border patrol?
I did not.
We fought hard to get to here before the last runway expansion. That would, imagine them building a 300 square, 3,000 square foot building, no, 30,000 square foot building, the way to the airport. And you getting the revenue from it, them doing the hot tub, and what they would do for services for you with communications, just being there, safety, all the things. But
And that would
We
bring.
lost it
transient
as a
traffic.
location.
So.
They would
and
have
if-
spent $10 million there in the drop of a hat.
If port of entry is required,
They
they
got
pass across the
And they
border.
wouldn't even call that money. Would they?
I think twice about it.
I'm sorry?
They wouldn't think twice about it.
No, that's correct. Ooh, perfect spot for it, do it.
That's the best thing that ever happened.
It didn't come to fruition. So you're working on the trees, because it's not on the agenda item, you are working aggressively on the trees.
That is correct.
I would hope that you would get a little bit more aggressive if you have to.
Yeah, so just a
Be
quick,
mean if you have to. Because it's impacting safety.
so a quick update. I did meet with Tim Lesage on the ground up there, and I met with two property owners, came to the meeting that I called. As it turns out, the trees are not on their property, but they're familiar with the program now. They were very willing to work with us. There was a third property owner that recently purchased one of the properties that he didn't own before. So there's one property owner that owns two adjacent properties where the 3 trees exist. I've sent a couple letters and recently an email through a real estate agent, owns properties for sale. So I think it's just a matter of us not getting connected yet. I don't think there's any defiance here. I don't.
You weren't here. But the FAA stood right in this room 10 years ago and said, be very careful about what you allow for growth around the airport.
Yep.
Stood right here in this building. So if you need to acquire property or put easements on property or restrict growth, you have the authority as a town. We've not done our due diligence. You have the authority to limit growth at the airport. All you have to do is write an article within 200 feet here, 7,000 feet there, you cannot do that. Now realize it's a property issue.
Yep.
But they stood right in this room and said, you're making a mistake if you don't protect your the circumference of the airport. You remember that?
I remember that.
Making a mistake.
And nothing ever happened.
We had this problem when we bought Monica Lila. You weren't here. Monica had a beautiful lot on the west end of the runway. She wanted to develop it. We didn't want development there. During one of the airport growths, we went to her and took the property by eminent domain and agreed to a fair number, so she would not develop that end of by the soup line. Good example of airport committee working with the landowner saying, we'd like to make you happy, rich, but we can't, so you just gotta buy the property, we can go away. Because building a home there is not gonna work for us.
Mhm.
Remember that?
And it worked.
It worked. So just think, don't be afraid to play hardball because we have the authority to play hardball.
Yeah.
If it's in the act of safety, we can do whatever we have to. Or public, whatever, water, sewer, aviation, whatever. It's within our authority. Joe, thanks for replaying. If I can ask you about the solar solicitation, what does that mean?
So there's a company, a gentleman on behalf of a company that has asked if there's any interest in developing a 6 3/4 acre solar generation site, solar power site. I'm just bringing it to you, I'm not recommending it.
What happened? Do we have a solar site up there now?
No, we don't. In fact, we have a solar.
Not us, but did the butter build one?
There's no butter that has one. There is one being built at the end of Pleasant Street.
Now, is there an ordinance against them now?
There is, good question. There's a moratorium ordinance in effect currently that does not allow us to take applications for those right now.
So what's this on the agenda for?
He's not applying. So when that moratorium expires,
Which would be when?
good question, January, I think?
Oh, okay, so it is something we should consider a problem.
Yeah,
Or,
most likely I'm gonna.
so if there were gonna be another solar project in the area, and I'm totally against solar. I think it's stupid, I think it's ugly, I think it doesn't work if it's not subsidized, and I think it's just a whole bunch of political bullshit. But if somebody wants to pay us to put some solar panels on the airport, and it was off the side of it, I'd have to consider it, because they couldn't pay money.
Yeah.
Back to Donnie's.
Yeah.
Back to Donnie's suggestion, we're gonna put 3 acres up there,
And that's the answer
and
to
they're
the
gonna pay
question.
$22,000 a month, we should be the first one to raise our hand.
I don't know if these are the same guys that wanted to do it up at the sewer plant. I mean, that, yeah.
I don't know that for sure. No, I don't.
There have
They don't work unless it's subsidized.
That's correct.
Right. Can't stay on their own.
I don't think they work. It's not my vote. Angus King clearly thinks they work. Somebody's getting painted green with them. They're gonna tear them down. They're gonna have no place to put the panels when they're done 20 years from now. But if we could be the recipient of $2,200 a month or $22,000 a month for some land that we own and we're not using, I would support it purpose, based on making the airport self-sufficient.
Absolutely.
That's why I brought it to you. I didn't know if you were interested in the revenue portion of
If
it.
it doesn't affect the visibility, the sheen, the shine, the reflection, and the FAA approves it, go for it.
But remember, the solar moratorium is in place now. and
Not January 1st.
I most likely will recommend to the board that they renew it for 6 months after a hearing, because they are working on, by they, I mean, the ordinance committee is working on a
Again,
alternative energy.
if it's good for the community, if it's good for the airport revenue, and if it stays within the limits of safety, I'm all for it.
Have they given a number, monetary number for this?
Right here.
I don't have one.
How much they're gonna
I've
give us?
walked that area and it's totally unusable for aircraft. There's a steep drop off out
But
there.
it may work with a southern exposure, but I don't know.
If they wanna put panels there, I don't see any.
I don't know how much we're gonna get.
Again, all you want, look at that guy in Farmington, the farmer in Farmington never made $40,000 a year in his life. He now gets $63,000 a month. So, 90-year-old farmer finally becomes a millionaire.
No,
He's now
well, no,
93.
it's-
You can't blame these
But I
guys.
can't blame the guy.
No, the farmer's been in the family and it's going downhill, and some guy offers you $1 million, whatever. Thank you very much.
A year
So.
to have the penalty, and still has no end.
For the rest of your life.
The rest of your life, what might you do?
Pretty much.
What do you do?
210 with that.
$20 million.
Nobody's gonna turn it down.
If I was in that old farmhouse,
Which puts
and that guy
it
made me
down
that offer, I'd say, you want the house
the
with it.
hill, so they probably didn't.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think they're up
They
there.
really want, but hey.
I think it's
come
gross.
on.
Oh, I've seen
Or
it.
use some real estate.
Massachusetts, my sister and brother-in-law live in Uxbridge. It's all, used to be all farms.
Yep.
Well, same thing, guys are walking around knocking on doors. Can we buy your 100 acres? They did.
Joe, did I miss this business enterprise program?
That is a policy that's been approved by the board of selectmen. I was gonna bring it to you last meeting, which didn't go
Or
forward.
what?
So this really keeps us in the running for FAA funding over the next couple of years. So it's to do with making sure that we don't discriminate.
Do we need to update the master plan to be in the running? Are we okay? Do we
No,
have a
you're
council?
okay, good question. The master plan is okay where it's at, because we have permission from the FAA to leave it where it is
Coast to coast,
and do pen and ink revisions as
but we
needed.
have permission from the FAA to coast,
Yes,
not from the lady in the state of Maine.
no, from George, I think, sent us that
All
email.
I mean, I'm happy not to spend more money on it, we have in front of us till 2029.
Right, now, that's not to say that, you may get through some of these things and decide you wanna do it sooner, but, right now, the FAA is okay with where it is. And they're allowing us to do pen and ink revisions, and so you start doing some pen and ink revisions, and you start building it out to a point where it's getting some momentum, it's probably time to think about
Understood,
full blown.
understood, I think we need to revise it, and I think at some meeting, we should do nothing except look at the timing on these projects and see if everybody agrees.
Yes. I think that's a great idea. That would coincide nicely with budget.
So before I ask the attendance for adjournment, I would ask that, based on what I just said, because this is Greek to me, somewhat Greek to me. If we could have a meeting without all this other stuff on it, other than announcements and adjournments, unless there's emergency, to spend one evening on this, so we all understand what is in the cards for the next 10 years.
I think that's a good idea.
I have a question about this fencing thing.
Again, and what's in the cards for this next 10
Well, I
years?
remember when we had the public hearing, the first question I asked those guys, do we have to fence it in when they did that? And they said no.
Correct. Now, if
And plus a
somebody's,
5-foot fence and an 8-foot
Wait,
fence,
are
you
they
could have
saying we
deer
have
running
to?
all over the
are
place.
they saying we have to, or are they recommending?
They're not saying we have to.
I don't know.
This,
No.
this is,
No, it's just somebody's idea of what might have to, should be happening.
Yeah.
And I say we should have a visit this and look into 2030 and see what we feel needs to be done. It's only 7 years away.
Yep.
Between now and 2030, what is our best guess of what should happen at the airport? And then move these numbers around to get the apron improved.
Yep.
To get to this, to get to that, to get possible FBO building, I mean, things that we feel as this board are gonna improve the airport.
I agree completely.
I take the motion to adjourn,
Second.
and a second to adjourn, all those in favor. The vote, thank you very much. Young lady, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
I'm sorry we keep it to the point here.